Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session for this Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. It is 9:01 a.m. My name is Ty Menser, Vice Chair of the board. Our Chair, Commissioner Carolina Mejia, is excused. Commissioner Gary Edwards is present through our virtual platform. County Manager Amiro Chavez and a bunch of staffers for specific items. This is a virtual meeting and we're scheduled from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We will probably take a break about halfway through. For public attendance, you can follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel or join in by phone by calling 360-252-9020. The PIN is 1234. So we'll jump right in with item 1, COVID-19 update. I saw our County Health Officer, Dr. Abdulmalik, and I see our Interim Public Health and Social Services Director, Kurt Harden. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, Kurt Harden, Interim Public Health Director. Well, for today, the COVID update is for Thurston County, our cases total 45,638 since the start of the pandemic. Pandemic has been going on and we've been in response phase for over 2 years. In the last 7 days, our case number has been 990. Our number of deaths in Thurston County, unfortunately, are 348 since the start of the pandemic. And in the last 7 days, we're tracking 18 deaths that have occurred that were COVID related. And then our 14-day per 100,000 case rate is 1,635 for this week. Last week, just as a comparison, it was 2,424. So there is a good news in the trend that appears to be taking place here. For our hospitalizations, our total hospitalizations for the pandemic is 2,159. However, our current COVID patients as of today being reported is 54 with 1 suspected COVID. Last week, just to give some perspective, it was 81, and 2 weeks ago it was 82. So good news there for the COVID numbers for COVID patients in the hospitals. The number of patients on ventilators is 15 being reported today. And then just as a comparison, last week it was 6, number of on vents being reported today is 5. And then the number reported last week was 16. So we're changing a little bit about how we report ICU bed capacity. So the Department of Health has now switched it from what we talked about before, which was airborne infection isolation rooms, AIIRs, to now they're tracking it by adult and pediatrics. So the ICU bed availability today is 4 adult beds in ICU, but 0 pediatrics. And our acute bed availability in Thurston County is 14 adult and 0 pediatric. And just a reminder, elective surgeries are now resuming with the downtrend in COVID cases. And I just want to remind the public that's watching, so the hospitalization rate overall is still going to be fairly high because as those elective surgeries resume, that will take up bed capacity. And so there still is more than likely going to be a large number of people in the emergency departments, patients, and they will still be very busy in those emergency departments. Our congregate care outbreaks, so far, we've had 179 congregate care outbreaks since March of 2020. And currently we have 49 congregate care outbreaks under investigation. For our vaccination status, this is all as of February 12th. Doses given in Thurston County are 498,613. The percent of people in Thurston County initiating vaccination is 71.2%. The percent of people fully vaccinated in Thurston County is 64.3%. And then the percent of people initiating vaccine who are over the age of 16 is 80.9%. And then the number of people vaccinating that have initiating vaccine was 80.9%. The number of people fully vaccinated over the age of 16 is 73.3%. And then the population in Thurston County initiating vaccine that are 5 or older is 75.3%. And then the percent of population fully vaccinated age 5 and older is 67.9%. And then the number of people in Thurston County who received an additional dose is 96,294. So a couple of other items are vaccination clinics. We continue to hold vaccination clinics in the Capitol Mall 7 days a week. And then we have community clinics Tuesday, today, February 15th. We're at the First United Methodist Church in Olympia. Tomorrow on February 16th, we're at West Thurston Regional Fire Authority. And then Thursday on February 17th, we're at Evergreen Christian Community Center in Olympia. For testing, we are testing in our communities around the county. Yesterday, we were in Yelm. Today, we are testing in Rochester from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the roof parking lot next to the Boys and Girls Club. Tomorrow, we'll be in Lacey from 10 to 1 at 3811 Pacific Avenue. And then Thursday, we'll be in Olympia from 10 to 1 at the Union Gospel Mission testing. And then Friday in Olympia at Evergreen State College from 10 to 1 in parking lot B. And then all test sites are planned to be operational from 10 to 1, but we'll close early if testing capacity is reached. And again, that's a lot of information for people who are watching. I encourage people to go to our website for the public health website of our Thurston County website. Now I want to turn over to Dr. Abdulmalik for additional information.
Good morning, commissioners. Our case rates continue to trend downwards and our COVID-related hospitalizations trend downwards as well. We are also seeing fewer new outbreaks so in our county related to COVID-19. So this is all positive and we are cautiously optimistic. However, transmission rates do remain high and are higher than they were even during the Delta, even during our Delta wave. So it's still important for folks to remain vigilant, wear masks indoors, stay home when sick, and get tested for COVID-19. And with that, I'm open to any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Edwards, you're up.
I guess the only thing I'd ask the doctors, how close are we to the end of this thing so we can get back to some normalcy, open up our meetings to the public and such?
Yeah, so our transmission rates continue to fall. As far as so I guess from the public health perspective, we're seeing encouraging signs of decreased transmission and decreased numbers in our hospitals. So those are all encouraging signs. In terms of when this will be over, that's a little bit harder to prognosticate because while we're seeing consistent declines across the state and actually across the country, in terms of the rate of decline has been variable. So from the public health standpoint, we are greatly encouraged by our trajectory in terms of decline, but when we'll reach specific metrics is still something that's yet to be seen. In terms of the decisions regarding meetings, I'm happy to provide the public health perspective if requested. But my understanding is that the meetings is more of it was a decision by the board. But I'm happy to answer any questions and be a support.
I guess I do a follow-up. You say it's the decision of the board when we can open up and get back. We could do that today. Is that what you're saying? If the board wanted to?
What I'm saying is right now our transmission within my scope of health as health officer, we still have high transmission rates, and we're still seeing spread in areas where folks have prolonged shared indoor, where folks are in indoor spaces, especially where there's crowding. as well as where there's inconsistent masking. So from the public health perspective, there's still reason for caution.
And Dr. Abenow, can I jump in here real quick? We're also meeting later this week with Dr. Abenow to be able to provide a greater perspective on where we are and provide information that can go up to the board to make decisions. But at the same time, we're meeting later this week, Commissioner, to be able to provide you that information. We're still looking at all the trends. We're still gathering information, and we're going to sit down later this week so we can get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
I guess a couple of, a lot of stats that Kurt went through. Most of them sounded pretty good. A couple of them kind of just want to ask about, kind of comment, like, 18 deaths and 49 current congregate care outbreaks. Can you remind me, is that high or low or medium or expected? Those kind of grab my attention.
Those are still high. So our death count is high. This is expected because in terms of the general progression of disease, there's, first we see a spike in cases, then we see a spike in hospitalizations, and deaths typically do lag for both because of the severe illness that they represent, as well as the deaths that we report have been through a reporting process. So there's a little bit of lag time in terms of review of the death certificates. As far as long-term care outbreaks and congregate care outbreaks, our number is high, but it's falling. A lot of this has to do with the fact that when we look at congregate settings, there's an increased risk of secondary transmission. So we don't consider them over until 28 days have passed with no new cases. We've been able to release a number of facilities over time, and we expect to, if nothing changes, we expect more releases in the coming weeks. Many of these facilities are in that monitoring phase of making sure that there are no additional positives.
So both of those numbers that I highlighted could be seen as kind of a lagging behind of the trends that you're trying to describe. Okay, and then, but 18, have we had that before? That many in a week for COVID-related death?
That number is high for us because I check frequently. There have been 7-day intervals at this level, but I can look and
okay. Well, it's okay.
It just has to do with the reporting window, so I'm happy to look at that.
I'm just trying to. It's not that critical. I'm just trying to make sure my own recollection of the statistical trends is accurate, and it's on the high end. That's what I seemed like that was right. But okay.
I see the county manager's got his hand up, sir.
Okay, I'll get to the county manager. So when it comes to, sounds like there's more to come regarding, advice to us about, meetings and whatnot. I know that just quite recently you were encouraging different sectors to, especially in county government, to telework as much as, your business allows, and courts and things like that. Are those recommendations still in place from you?
As of right now, I'm looking at our trends and our case rates as well as our transmission patterns. I continue to recommend remote work at this point in time where possible.
And I would certainly agree. You didn't order us to do the board's action on the boardroom, but I saw it as kind of an extension of that advice. So, and you'll let us know ASAP if you feel like that advice needs revising. I guess I'm asking you that. I saw it as an extension. So if you're going to change those advice and other plans, I think the board would like to know so we can maybe make similar adjustments to our own meetings and whatnot.
Completely agreed. So some of what, so a lot of what we're doing is we're projecting out. We are seeing significant drops as of right now. Our transmission rates are still high. However, we anticipate, in the coming days and weeks, reaching a transmission threshold where while I would continue to recommend mitigation measures of masking, distancing, reducing crowding, in addition to all of the measures that folks should take when they're symptomatic, that returning to work may be that the transmission risk would be such that a return to work would be unlikely to spark, significant transmission, both within a workplace and in the community at large. So those are kind of the pieces that led to my recommendation. We're still watching the transmission patterns, especially as they change with a reduction in case rates, and I anticipate updating my recommendation in the coming days to weeks.
Okay, well, just keep us informed, even if it's not a Tuesday, I'm sure the board would like to kind of know where things are going. I checked in, just for the board's knowledge, I checked in with the mayors of Tumwater and Lacey this week just to see where they were at, and they are both deferring any decision on having open public meetings again till the end of the month, barring any major, change. So that's where they're at. County Manager, your turn.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions. The first one is maybe for Dr. Abdulmalik. At some point, we used to report the infection rates, and it was as I recall, the magic point was 1% or so. But it seems to be not just in the county, but at state and maybe at the national level, that sort of number is no longer reported. Is that a change? Because I was just curious, because at some point at the beginning of halfway through the pandemic, it was very evident that that number was essential. And I believe it was always shooting less than 1, it was good, right? So has that changed? Is that relevant? Or giving your perspective, you have one?
Yeah, so the R0 or the replication rate is essential. I think that so R0 is the average number of people that somebody who's positive with COVID-19 would infect during the course of their infectious period. So when it's above 1, we can expect significant surges. So, just thinking about infectiousness. So one of the things that we've learned about Delta and Omicron is that their R0 was higher than previous variants. So Delta higher than previous variants, and then of course Omicron higher than Delta. The R0 estimates right now are less than 1. Because it takes both into account the infectiousness of the virus, but it also takes into account the mitigation measures of everyday people. So right now, our R0 in Washington State is less than 1. So what's been reported has the most recent R0 that's been reported is 0.95, but case rates, but there's a little bit of a lag in terms of that reporting, because that the state has reported it as of January 15th, and we're currently in February, and our decline has been such that I suspect that that our current R0 is lower than it was at the most recent reported date. So it still remains a really essential. It remains an essential number, and it's moving in an encouraging direction, which we're seeing corroborated with lower case rates.
Okay, thank you. And also, this afternoon, the governor is going to have a news conference, and I believe he's going to be addressing the indoor mandate for maskings. And I think at that point, if in fact he provides some perspective on that, that will be the point at which probably we need to have a conversation as to how we can probably move forward with a county and align to the state. Is that the expectation?
Yes. So I know. So at this point, there's a lot of So I know that there are many conversations about how to transition to public life that's more more in alignment with life prior to the pandemic and the timing of when specific mitigation measures would be eased. We are anticipating updates this week.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Chair, could I get a follow-up, please?
Kurt, did you need to say something on that point before I go to Commissioner Edwards?
For the governor's press conference, I believe that's been pushed back to Thursday. I was on a meeting this morning with Department of Health, and I believe they mentioned that it's now Thursday.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks, Kurt. That's a good update. Commissioner Edwards?
Doctor, just to clarify those 18 deaths that we talked about so the public doesn't get overly concerned, I guess they should be concerned, but aren't all of those deaths related to age and underlying conditions?
While I would say that the majority of deaths during the Omicron surge have been in general in folks who have tended to be older and have tended to have comorbidities listed. There have been folks under the age of 50 who have also had COVID-related deaths during the Omicron surge.
But they all had underlying conditions, I believe, didn't they? Because information comes in phases, not each person has had that listed at time that their death was recorded. Okay.
Do we have that data? Commissioner Edwards, you sounded like you knew something that...
Well, that's what I'm hearing from folks that work at the hospital. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. That's a good update on everything. Is everybody good? Commissioner Edwards, County Manager?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Dr. A.
Thank you.
Let's go to Homeless Strategies Update, item 2 this morning, and Keely Marino is here. Good morning, Keely.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. Just a really brief update for you today. Of course, starting off with our rental assistance update for the week. Community Youth Services, who is serving Thurston County households between the ages of 18 and 24 to this date, have served 196 of those 196 households, and there are 308 that are in progress right now. And they've spent about $1.5 million in rental assistance at this time. Community Action Council continues to serve other households beside the youth and young adult population in Thurston County, 3,902 households at this point, and their rental assistance expenditures are about $26.6 million, and the utility assistance $1.254 million. They continue to serve 60% of the folks that they're working with, or households they're working with, are at 30% AMI or lower, when AMI is area median income. So some of our most our households in Thurston County that are struggling on a monthly basis to make rent. Other than that, we have been continuing to support those campers that were displaced from the Deschutes encampment on December 8th by the City of Olympia. However, our time and our funds have come to an end. And so this will be our final week in supporting and paying for those rooms at the 2 hotels. One hotel will have folks exit this Friday, and the other hotel on next Tuesday, the 22nd. We're working closely with the City of Olympia, Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, and other providers to make sure that that goes as smoothly as possible. And I think that's about it for, excuse me, that's my puppy, for today.
Commissioner Edwards.
No, I think I'm good for now. Thank you, sir.
Okay, County Manager, saw your hand.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Hey, Keely, I shared an email with you that the City of Lacey has found some fire code violations at the Super 8. That may also put a little bit of, wrinkles on how we're managing those individuals and on the Super 8. Can you elaborate on that a little bit without getting too much into, obviously there is a little bit of actions the manager of the hotel needs to take to address those code violations, but can you elaborate what the impact that will be?
Absolutely. So City of Lacey, Fire District 3 from Lacey went to the Super 8 and did an inspection and found a number of issues regarding fire safety in the last week. And that notification was sent to Scott Spence and then onward to County Manager and then on to our office. I just spoke with Rick Walk actually right before this meeting, and it sounds as if the Super 8 has already started making those changes to address the concerns and the violations that were found by Lacey Fire Department. And so they are moving forward in addressing them. The impact that it might have on us is just more about what funding source we're able to use. As our current funding source requires minimum habitability standards, which includes safety. So that may impact where the funds come from to pay for those hotel rooms. Other than that, it sounds like they are making haste in addressing those concerns.
Excellent. Thank you, Keely.
Mm-hmm.
Keely, what is the number of folks then that will be sort of moving out of rooms that are in there now at the end of this week?
Yeah. So there are 41 rooms at the Super 8 and 17 rooms at the Olympia Inn, serving approximately 60 to 70 individuals. What's important to know is Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, their hotel program, which is funded through the House Bill 1277 funds that they were awarded in the fall, will begin at the end of this week. So they will be taking over the hoteling of about 20 to 23 rooms at the Super 8. So not everyone will be leaving immediately. There will be 20 to 23 rooms that will remain under the program through that Olympia Mutual Aid Partners is starting on next Tuesday. So we are looking at about approximately 40 individuals that we are hoping can get into whatever projects are available. We're working really hard to case consult with Coordinated Entry and City of Lacey and Thurston Mason BHASO. We have a number of individuals working really hard to try to fast track those folks into some other project rather than being released back to unsheltered homelessness.
So you segued right where I was going. So that's what I was going to ask. I was like, I know we didn't find housing for everybody. It's not that easy, but do we have some success stories? Have some folks found other, as you say, projects or places to land besides the woods or a camp? How are we doing on that effort to try to connect people?
It's really slow. There is, I think, 1 or 2 rooms that have been successfully moved into housing projects at this point. A number of individuals are waiting on treatment beds as they become available. And then we're waiting. The timing is what is always the issue. And so we have spaces opening up at Plum Street Village, Lehigh's Tiny Home Village, and we have potentially some spaces at Unity Commons. But because we are requiring them to go through coordinated entry, the timing of getting everyone into coordinated entry, case consulting about them, as those rooms become open, if they become open, is what slows all of this down. So the spaces at at Plum Street Village haven't opened up yet. That those folks haven't moved on to Unity Commons. And so we were hoping that we could extend the rooms long enough that we could get some folks into those projects, but the moving of people out of the projects into new ones to make space for hotel guests potentially, while also honoring that we don't want to jump ahead in the list when we have 900 individuals on the wait list for coordinated entry in terms of single adults. We want to respect the process and make sure that we're being equitable about it.
Okay, thank you, Keely. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to item 3, which is a review of this afternoon's board agenda. The meeting will be called to order at 2 p.m. and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. We will approve the agenda and board meeting minutes, presumably, and have the opportunity for the public to address the board. And then county manager's update, all of that. County manager, anything we need to discuss?
Yes, I will follow up to the public testimony you received from Mr. Yoakum, Mrs. Yoakum last week. So there was 3 elements to her testimony related to when we post agendas, when the board is going to discuss items. I will address that. Also, she addressed the fireworks proposal that she submitted, and I believe the fire marshal has responded to that as well. And the third element of her testimony was related to how we're going to be announcing in the event that we exercise the ordinance that we have to ban the discharge of fireworks based on inclement weather conditions at that time, dry conditions. So I will address that as well this afternoon.
Has the board been copied on the fire marshal's response to Ms. Yoakum?
I can share that with you, absolutely. I don't believe so, but I can certainly share that with you.
I would like to, because I intended to respond to her, but I haven't had a chance because there's a lot of detail in what she laid out. So I'd certainly like to see what the fire marshal had to say, and maybe he covered everything for me, but I don't want to be at cross purposes to what information's going out.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Edwards, anything there?
No, sir.
Okay. Then let's go to the consent agenda. Looks like we have quite a few items. The first one, 3A, is an auditor item, service agreement contract with Runbeck Election Services, Inc.
Yeah, you reviewed this item last week, commissioners, and this is related to the county auditor purchasing a ballot sorting machine from Runbeck Election Services. And that was the result that we're providing direction back in December to go ahead and purchase this. So the next step in the process is to get into an agreement with the same company to provide a 5-year support to this particular machine. The total cost of the next 5 years is $38,600, and again is a sole source. And the county auditor, internal auditor, has concluded on that, since it's the same outfit, they own the machines, and it's just only logical to continue with a partnership to provide the technical services for the next 5 years. Any questions?
Commissioner Edwards, any questions from that?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's look at 3B, which is also an auditor item. Resolution to reclassify 2 positions.
Yes, this is also a follow-up to the decisions the board made during the 2022-2023 biennial budget, where you authorized the auditor to reclassify a couple of positions. So the request for you today is 2 reclassifications. One is 2 financial analyst positions, one to be reclassified as senior financial analyst, and the other one is to senior management analyst. The fiscal, the first one has an increase from $8,726. I'm sorry, from $7,504 to $8,726, for a total increase of $1,022 per month, which is about 16.8%. The next classification The senior management analyst has a budget impact from $7,504 to $9,509. That's an increase of just about $2,000 per month, or 26.72%. Those authorizations were part of the 2022-2023 biennial budget approval by the board, so the auditor is not requesting any additional budget authority. Any questions?
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. Yep, we've gone over this. Appreciate that. Let's look at 3C. Treasurer item, write-offs of uncollectible personal property taxes for 2021. And I see our County Treasurer, Jeff Gadman, is here. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. Jeff Gadman, Thurston County Commissioner. Annually, I need to present to you uncollectible taxes for approval for write-off. And these are mobile homes that have been destroyed. We don't have any of them that just disappeared. And then business property taxes, which have proven to be uncollectible, either because the business closed, the bankruptcy charges, that's in the case of one business in particular, or the business just moved and we cannot locate anybody responsible for those taxes and have deemed them uncollectible. I can assure you that the revenue officer in my office uses extreme due diligence to get these collected before we ever put them on this list. And so I have every reason to believe that these really, truly are uncollectible taxes.
Jeff, if I may add to your comment?
Yes, please.
Manager.
Yeah, as County Treasurer Gadman stated, there's a total of 4 mobile homes, as he stated, which has an uncollectible taxes of $345.78. And the business-related taxes is 47 business cumulative. It has a total of $40,956.69 uncollectible taxes, for a total write-off of $41,302.47.
Commissioner Edwards, any questions on that?
No, we've covered this one. Jeff's
Yep.
one, you're pretty close there. Thank you.
Straightforward. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Item 3D is a reappointment to the Board of Equalization for Ted May.
Yeah, Commissioners, you discussed this particular appointment for your consideration is to reappoint Mr. Ted May to the Board of Equalization as an alternate member for the term of March 1st, 2022 to March 1st, 2025.
Commissioner Edwards, good on that?
No, good on it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. We've got 3 more reappointments, trying to get these shored up here. And I think we went through them last week. The next one is also Board of Equalization for John Morrison.
Yeah, maybe I can just walk you through the next few appointments
Okay.
for consideration. Yes, as the next item is to reappoint Mr. John Morrison to the Board of Equalization, for the term of March 1st, 2022 to March 1st, 2025. The next appointment for your consideration is to appoint Mr. Chris Hoffman to the Historic Commission as a District 1 member for the term of March 1st, 2022 to March 1st, 2025. The next appointment for your consideration is to appoint Mr. John Wagner to the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board as a not-large member for the term of March 1st, 2022 to March 1st, 2025. And that will be all the appointments for your consideration.
Any issues there, Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir. I think we've covered them all. Thanks.
All righty. Voucher list is item 3H. Any questions on voucher list?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Then we'll go to item 4A, Human Resources. Award contract for classification and compensation study. Maria Ponte, Human Resources Director, hopefully with a good mic.
Testing,
Yes.
testing.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, Commissioners, you reviewed this item last week, and this is related to the long time comment, I believe, is to you to award the contract to the Seagull Company for $170,000 to conduct the compensation and classification study across all the areas and classifications in the county. This has been a long time coming again. The request for proposals was issued last year, I believe, and through the process, there's some delays, and obviously the delays were related to the workload issues the HR has, but finally we'll come to the point. And I think I was able to address the questions the board had last week since Maria was not able to mic up. So here she is. Maybe she can elaborate a little bit more on this item.
Thank you, Romero. Good morning, commissioners. Maria Ponte, HR Director. So Romero did a great job of explaining the overarching project, and I just wanted to add a few more items just for follow-up to some of your questions. One of them was, when is the project set to start? And if approved, it can start immediately, but no later than March. The other question was, how long will the project take? Approximately 9 to 10 months. One of the advantages of having the vendor do this is they can look at all of our classifications, the majority that we're looking at, rather than when HR was doing it, we were doing it in phases. Just in terms of how we gather the information, the vendor has a position description questionnaire that employees individually fill out. Their supervisors review it, and there's any types of disputes, then the vendor can come in and work through those. The advantage of that is sometimes people think that HR maybe isn't unbiased, and so again, having a third party removes that, I guess, skepticism. And then the other question had to do with the communication of the project. And so part of the scope of work is to have the vendor come in and help us. How do we communicate this to our leaders, to our employees, as well as to our labor partners, because they will be a part of all of this. What are the points? I think that covers all of the questions from last week, but if you've thought of any more, I'll attempt to answer them this morning or this afternoon.
Okay, question for Maria, Commissioner.
Yes, sir. Maria, as far as the time goes on how long this might take, you said maybe it'd take 9 months or so. Are they going to have a mechanism in place that will help us with recruitment and retention in regard to the cost of living increases and such, that we can kind of plug in? If they do an analysis this month, 6 months from now, it may not be relevant, I guess. So do you know, are they going to be in a situation that they could help us along as they make these recommendations that based on this, that, or the other, and mainly inflation right now, or the CPI, that we would be able to be in better shape when it comes to bargaining with reality with our bargaining units?
So part of the scope of work does include looking at our current comparable jurisdictions. We use about 10 to 12, and it includes Yakima and Spokane. And so one of the things I've asked them to do is, are those still relevant in terms of who we compete for, in terms of talent? So based on their study and recommendations, that will be one thing that they'll evaluate. They'll also help us look at our compensation structures, our pay plans and pay practices, again, just to ensure that we are contemporary in our pay practices. They will also help us develop what the cost of implementing some of the recommendations are. And so all of that will get presented to our leaders, but ultimately to the Board of County Commissioners. as part of the budget. What can we afford to implement, and how do we prioritize? So just in terms of inflation, at the time I developed the scope of work, that wasn't an issue, but that is something that certainly we'll take into consideration. This year, at the end of the year, the majority of our bargaining contracts expire, so we'll be negotiating wages. So it'll all just kind of come together towards the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. That's it, sir.
Okay. County manager, anything?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Maria. I don't have any questions. Look,
Okay.
I'm very
I'll see you
excited to
this
see this.
afternoon.
Excited to see this go forward. Item 5A is information technology, and it's a renewal of Microsoft support agreement for technical assistance.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. You also reviewed this item last week. And for your considerations to waive the competitive bidding requirements to have a professional services contract with Microsoft Services for $81,731. The county uses Microsoft products that includes Office 365, Windows, SharePoint, SQL Server, and Windows Server. This particular contract needs to be renewed on a yearly basis, and the county has been exercising these services from Microsoft since 2014. So for your consideration is this item, and Dennis Osorio, the Director of IT, and is available to answer additional questions.
Any questions for Dennis, Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir, I think we've covered this. Thank you.
Yep, very good. Thanks, Dennis. Nothing here. Thanks. On to Public Health Social Services 6A. It's an interagency agreement with Washington State Department of Health for Tri-Lakes groundwater study.
Thank you, Commissioners. You also reviewed this item last week, and for your consideration is to accept a grant from the Department of Ecology for $116,125 for a contract performance of July 10, 2021 through December 31st, 2022. The purpose of this particular grant is to collect groundwater quality and surface water quality data on the Tri-Lake area of Thurston County. That is considered to be Lone Lake, Patterson Lake, and Hicks Lake. I believe you asked a few questions last week. If you have additional questions related to this item, Art Starr is here to be available to you.
Morning, Art. Any questions for Art, Commissioner Edwards?
No, I think we've covered this one too. Thank you.
Okay, very good. This is also a very positive item. Next is Public Works 7A, request for proposal for landfill groundwater reporting services contract. Jeff Bigford, Solid Waste Manager.
Thank you, Commissioner. As we know, we have a closed landfill that it was closed back in 2020, and that is located on the Hawkesbury area of the county. Since the closed landfill, we are required to monitor the groundwater and just to make sure the leachate doesn't infiltrate into the groundwater as a contaminant. So we have exercised the professional services for a little while for an external outfit. They provide us with the level of expertise to conduct this groundwater monitoring requirements. And as you heard from Jeff last week, it was time to revisit the contract that we have. So this proposal for you is to authorize the Department of Public Works to issue a request for proposals and secure the services for an outfit that will continue to provide the services for groundwater monitoring, including lab work. Jeff?
The county manager stated that very well. I'm willing to answer any other questions you might have.
Commissioner Edwards, anything?
Oh, I think we've covered this one too. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
I understand this one. Good to go. Item 7B is also a Public Works item, contract award for biosolids hauling and disposal services.
You also had a good conversation on this item last week, I believe, the board did. As a matter of perspective to the public, Public Works in Salta County has a wastewater utilities facilities down in the Grand Mountain area, Thomas and Boston Harbor. The result of us managing the wastewater treatment plants, we have biosolids as the product related to the wastewater treatment process. We have to dispose that, and obviously we don't have the elements to treat it on site. So we go through the process of requiring the services for an outfit that can transport as well as treat the biosolids generated by the 3 wastewater treatment plants. There was a great conversation last week in terms of what other counties do. Certainly other counties do a little bit more. Lot does a little bit more, as Joe stated last week. And all that could be done here in the county with an increased amount of investment if that is the case. But at this point, it's something that operationally we need to do this. So for your consideration is to award a contract for disposal services to Tribeca Transport LLC of Woodland, Washington for $750,000. Joe, would you like to add anything else related to that?
No, County Manager. I think that sums it up. There was a question last week from Commissioner Edwards regarding Tenino's biosolids treatment. I did take a look at that. They are treating to Class B standards, similar to what we're doing at our Grand Mound facility.
Yep, got it. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner, go ahead.
I do have a follow-up on that though, please.
Go ahead.
I guess we did have a good discussion about this last week, but I'm not sure the discussion is a conclusion. I don't know that I'm satisfied with where we're going yet on this particular topic, and I'm looking forward to further discussion. It's just that I realize that we've been doing it this way for quite some time, and we need to continue doing whatever we're doing. We just can't stop and study a process that we might be taking on that's going to be different. So although I am going to be supportive of this, I'm looking forward to additional discussion on if we can do a better job with disposing of this byproduct material. I realize that we're a drop in the bucket, you know, with this project compared to King County or any of the larger jurisdictions. And I'm just not sure we're doing it right. And I'd like to have more in-depth conversation on this to see if we can protect the environment a little better. But for now, I mean, I'm with you. Thank you.
I have some questions because I'm a little confused. So I went through this a lot last week, and this is what I understood. Maybe I got it wrong there, or maybe I'm understanding Joe wrong here. I understood from Lot that there's basically Class A and Class B, and if you can't create Class A or Class B yourself, then your option is to truck it to somebody else and sell it to someone that can make it into Class A or Class B. Lot has the ability to make Class B biosolids by itself. That requires dewatering, digesters, and heating, and it's expensive. In fact, we're about to spend $2.2 million to upgrade our process just to make it, you know, just to keep it going and improve it. But that's just Class B biosolids. Other places, I guess Pierce County, other places that make Class A, that's a product you can sell. Class B allows you to do land application. So I understood all of that, and I understood that we're in that third group. We don't provide the infrastructure to create our own Class A or Class B, so we're selling it. But I guess what's got me confused is if you're saying Tenino is able to do Class B, then why aren't we just taking it to Tenino right here in our county? Why would we send it anywhere else if Tenino's got the capacity to create Class B biosolids?
Great question, Commissioner. We actually can create Class B at our Grand Mound facility. We can't at our Tam-O-Shan or Boston Harbor facilities. And Tenino, they're a somewhat small facility. They'd probably be hard pressed capacity-wise to handle our waste streams.
So Tam-O-Shan and Boston Harbor can't just go to Grand Mound?
And we do that. And then we land apply after that when we're in the land application season. But there are times where land application is not an option, and that's where we have to truck our sludge to other facilities for further processing.
Okay, so it's a part of the year thing, and then part of the year where we can use our own facilities, we do that in Grand Mound.
Correct. And we still have to remove those Class B biosolids from Grand Mound and have them disposed of.
Right, yeah, and that's a contract, and lot goes out to Eastern Washington and stuff. Okay, well, that's a wrinkle I don't think that came through in the last week's discussion. I don't know if that helps Commissioner Edwards at all with what we're doing, but anyway, thanks. Any other questions before we let Joe go?
No, I think there's just more to come.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Okay, good. Well, then that brings us to item 8, which are just our standing items. Commissioners will report on anything they'd like to do. County manager will look at our schedule and we'll adjourn. That shouldn't be too lengthy here this afternoon. And let's go on then to item 4 on the morning's agenda, which is to review next Tuesday's proposed board agenda. So we will call that meeting to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by myself. We'll have a review of the agenda and board meeting minutes from today. Agenda for next week, minutes from today. We'll have a presentation from Public Works then, introduction of new Public Works employees with Jennifer Walker, our Public Works Director. Romero, anything we need to address there?
No, that's part of the process for the board to have the opportunity to welcome new county employees. As you know, this is a very difficult time, not just for Public Works, but all the labor across the county. So every opportunity that we have to welcome new employees is a good thing, as we struggle to meet all the vacant positions that we have available. Thank you.
Okay, opportunity for the public to address the board. County manager's update. Anything there?
I will follow up if there is anything to follow up as a result of this afternoon's public testimony, sir.
Okay. Anything, Commissioner Edwards, before we move on to consent items?
No, sir.
Okay. Consent item 3A is Public Works appointment to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. As you know, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is governed by the Thurston County Code 5A.2.22030. And the Solid Waste Advisory Committee includes representation from one commissioner or the representative, one elected official, and the representative from each of the municipalities participating on the solid waste management plan, as well as members of private businesses, one waste collection company representative, as well as one from the recycle agency, as well as from agricultural part of the business, including 3 citizen representatives. This particular request is for you to consider appointing Mr. Joseph Richardson as the City of Yelm representative to the Thurston County Solid Waste Advisory Committee for the remainder of the previous City of Yelm representative, which is a 3-year term that expires on March 2023. I believe this is a request by the Yelm City Council, and for your considerations to approve this appointment.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, anything here?
Is this person a city council member, or this is a at-large member from Yelm and they're asking?
I believe he's a new council member.
He's a new council member, okay? No issue, sir.
Okay. We also have item 3B, which is an appointment of David Nightingale to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, SWAC.
Yes, and also he is as business representative to the Thurston County Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Mr. Nightingale is a local business owner, and he has already submitted the application. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee reviewed the application of Mr. Nightingale on the February 2nd, 2022, and passed a motion unanimously to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners his appointment to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. So, and his term, if the board approves, will be from February 2022 to February 2025. Jeff?
Yes, that is correct. Mr. Nightingale approached us recently. This business representative position has been open for quite some time. So we are actually quite pleased to get an application for somebody to fill this position. And I'm willing to answer any other questions.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, sir. This is the only application that we got in?
That is correct.
And when we put out for applications, do we go to the Chamber of Commerce?
Actually, we have. We've approached several of the chambers in the county, and we have been doing that for the last half a year or so. And we finally received this application just recently.
And is this individual associated with the Chamber of Commerce or Better Business Bureau? Or I'm just curious how we came about. I don't know this individual. I want to know the process that. Are we?
Yeah, that's a good question. Excuse me. I do not know if he's a member of the chamber. I do know that he is. He saw our advertising. We had other, for example, out on social media and other locations where we've been promoting these vacant positions, and he responded to that. That was how he heard about us.
What kind of business is this gentleman involved in?
He is a consulting engineer. So he has consulted in the environmental field, and specifically he has a history of working with household hazardous waste type programs, as well as other solid waste type design and planning type programs for other municipalities around the state as well as nationally. But he does reside here in Olympia, and that's where his business is based.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good on that one. Item 3C is voucher list. We'll have that to review later this week.
Yeah,
So we'll go to.
We'll add the amount when we receive that.
Okay, yeah, I see that blank. Thank you. We'll take a look at that on Tuesday morning. 4A is central services. Request for proposals for Atrium furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, for your consideration. This is related to the 3000 Pacific move. It's going to be occurring this year. As you know, the board approved moving on that, the majority of the board moving in that direction, which we exercised the tenant improvements as part of the lease. However, the furniture associated with the space cannot be part of that lease. We need to go ahead and advertise that. So this particular item for your consideration is to authorize Robin Campbell, acting as the Director of Central Services, to issue a request for proposals for furniture, fixture, and equipment. It will support the space needs of the 3000 Pacific building. And as soon as if the board approves on this particular item, then we'll bring back the selected vendor for you to consider approving the contract. Robin?
I have nothing to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, which budget will be covering these expenses?
This is part of the project in REIT 1.
I do have some concerns about expenditures from REIT one. I know we have an old Attorney General opinion that says this is okay. I think it's from 1978. But I think Mr. Pettit has brought up some change in the law or something from 1992, I think. And I am going to be scrutinizing this, and I don't know if I'll be able to support this or not. You know, I was the only vote against this issue, and I've not been convinced that it's 100% legal at this point. But I'll be discussing that maybe with legal counsel and the county manager to see where we might go with that. But that's my concern is all. But there's time to take a look at this. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from any other quarter? No, okay. Then let's go to 4B, contract award for project development study.
Yeah, this also related in a way to the previous item, commissioners. As you may recall, the board authorized issuing a request for qualifications to secure the services of an engineering architectural firm to start working on the space needs and remodel of the courthouse campus. That eventually will be into more of a law and justice. That will include buildings 1 through 6. So we have gone through that process, and for your consideration will be to authorize the signing a contract with DLR Group. This particular group was the selected firm. We received only 2 proposals, I believe. And we're still in the process of negotiating the contract amount based on the scope of work. And that item, the particular figure will be added to your item, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that I think it's just parallel to the previous item, that we need to continue to address the needs of the courthouse campus itself, and this particular firm will allow us to do so in a timely manner. Robin?
So you may notice that there is an X instead of a dollar amount. That's because we're currently negotiating with the winning bidder on exactly how much the contract will be. So we will fill that in before you take a vote.
Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
And is this group a local business?
This group is from the Seattle area.
From Seattle? Do we have a local group that put in a bid, or?
Yes, and based on the review by the team, they were not selected.
Okay, and we only had 2, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And that RFP went out when?
The RFQ, the request for
RFQ,
qualifications.
yeah.
That was issued last December, I believe.
December 1st.
December 1st, thank you.
Is that it, Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, well, would this be REIT money as well?
So this will ultimately be paid out of REIT. This would be paid as part of the bond issue that the board will consider in the fall.
But this really is just the remodel of here on the hill is what's going to be looked at, is that right?
Yes.
Some future activity here, right?
Yeah, yes.
And that's
Correct.
that's a legal expenditure, right? And
They're all legal expenses.
Everything is legal,
Okay,
Commissioner.
we have a difference of
Yeah,
opinion.
we're
but-
not going to be bringing any
Right.
illegal items for you to consider.
Okay, no, I have no problem with this, then, thank you.
Okay, I kind of follow up on this group. Have we ever worked with this particular firm before?
Yes,
out of
we have.
curiosity. Okay. That probably went into the scoring criteria or the consideration of proposals.
We actually, we've worked with both of the bidders. So we know both of their work. I wouldn't say that it was so much a factor in the scoring proposal. We have positive relationships with both firms. This firm was more qualified in this type of work they have quite a bit of experience with designing courts and courtrooms.
Thank you for reminding me. And that was an important consideration that I know not only the courts themselves, but others recommended that we, to me at least, that we look for that expertise. So thank you. Okay,
Chair.
then let's look. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I just one follow-up on this. Did we have, I mean, this is digging back into the archives a little bit anyway, but didn't we have a MUN report or something at some point, some years back, that covered some of these issues?
So we've had a series of studies done, and 2 by Thomas Architecture and 1 by the Meng Corporation. Part of the contract with this consultant is that they will take all of those studies into consideration and not start from scratch.
Yeah, okay, that's all I was gonna ask. And as that happens, could we, as board members, have access, or do we have access to some of that material? Are you aware of
You
that?
do have access to all of the old studies, Commissioner. If you would like copies, we'd be happy to get those for you.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Good deal. Okay, thank you. Then let's move on to 5A, CPED, Community Planning Economic Development. The item is an amendment to professional services contract number 4-15 for the Habitat Conservation Plan Environmental Impact Statement.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, for your considerations, for you to consider this amendment with contract with Confluence Environmental Company for $3,500. And the total amount, or their contract, will be $472,302 with the amendment of additional $3,500. And this to continue with the, what I hope is the, the last mile on the Habitat Conservation Plan related to the environmental impact statement. It eventually will lead us to an incidental take permit, and that will be a good place where the county needs to be. Chris, would like to elaborate on this, please?
Sure. So the requested small amount is to finalize the final EIS so that we can publish it. The initial contract for Confluence was actually drafted in 2015, and we've been working with 2015 numbers in 2021. So we did have to increase their budget just a little bit, but all of the funds are coming out of the grant that was provided by the federal government.
Which is Section 6 grant. Yeah.
That is correct. Those are Section 6 grants.
I'm not awesome at math, but it doesn't look like that's 10%. So is there a reason why we have to approve this through the board?
Because it was an older contract, we did not have that particular statement in the approval, so I did have to bring it back to you.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards?
No question, sir.
All right, very good. Thank you, Chris. District Court is next, and they've got a request for proposals for District Court substance abuse monitoring.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. As part of the 2022-2023 biennial budget, the board authorized $500,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act to go ahead and secure the services for the home monitoring. It's not home monitoring devices, sorry. It's for substance abuse monitoring, seeking qualified proposals. So this particular action from District Court is to continue with the process for you to authorize the request for proposals that we can secure a vendor to provide those services. I myself am very excited to provide this particular item because there's going to be a great asset as to how we're going to be dealing with individuals that might be utilizing this particular device, which I believe it does the transdermal blood alcohol monitoring device installation and removal as well. It also does compliance with the District Court, and I'm just reading their proposal. Anyways, so as soon as we probably have, if the board authorizes the issue of request for proposals, district court will come back and give you a perspective of the selected vendor and give you more information related to the process in terms of how they plan to implement this brand new program, really the board authorized around 2022, 2023 biennial budget. So if you have any questions, I know that Frank Peter's not here, but I certainly can take some notes and bring those answers to your questions next week.
Commissioner Edwards.
I guess I didn't hear a dollar amount. I see it's
Well,
ARPA, but do we have a rough estimate?
you authorized 500,000.
We already did that.
Yes, and the request for proposal is to actually secure how much it will cost us.
And we just dedicated that dollar amount in a list of some other potential expenditures. Is that what?
Right, it's part of the budget.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep, I remember this as a creative way to try to get this program that district court's been asking for a number of years off the ground. So hopefully we can do that. Juvenile court probation is up. Sole source professional services contract with Heart Strides Therapeutic Horsemanship.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. This is a renewal of the services that we have with Heart Strides Therapeutic Horsemanship. And this contract is from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023 for $53,120. This particular outfit is part of the, they call the Equine Assisted Youth Peer Support Program, where youths ages from 12 to 17 on a civil and offender caseload with Thurston County Juvenile Court that can participate in the program, which is a 6-week course. They really what it does, a kind of neat program. Those individuals involved, juveniles involved within the justice system, they go through and just interact with the horses. This particular outfit has a very nice program. And that is a way as to how they can avoid perhaps going to jail, those juveniles. This has been, again, a successful program in the past, and they're requesting for a sole source professional services contract for you to waive. The internal auditor has weighed in and has approved this particular proposal as a sole source. And again, for your consideration is to authorize $53,120. There is no additional request on the budget since this is part of the overall operations for juvenile court. And again, if you have any questions that I'm not able to answer, I will take them, and I will make sure that those get answered next week when you review this item again.
Commissioner Edwards.
I guess the budget source.
The budget source is part of the juvenile court budget as an overall. They're not requesting additional budget. If you ask me what type of money or source, I don't know if it's specifically what colored money is. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think it's out of that drug.
But I can certainly bring back that.
No, I don't know. I think I know the answer to that. I was just doing it for the public, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say so.
But I will certainly bring that
Okay.
Next week.
Okay,
I'm not
thank
sure where unless Robin has that answer.
So I don't see this on the version of the agenda that I have for next week. Which item is it? The
7A.
7A under juvenile court probation.
It's Heart Strides?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then my best guess is that it's TST funded.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was on the list when we went through it. At some
Right.
point.
I'm pretty certain it's from TST.
But I will confirm that. But thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's go on. We'll try to get through a couple more items here before we take a break. We may or may not get through the rest of this agenda. 8A is a interlocal agreement with City of Olympia for property acquisition. Thomas Webster from Public Health, Senior Program Manager. County Manager, what do we got?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. As you may recall, on December 15, 2021, the board authorized me signing a memorandum on understanding with the City of Olympia to address the impact of unsheltered homeless individuals living on the Ensign Road. And that was the result of not moving forward with the overall plan using the county facility located at Carpenter and Martin Way. So this particular proposal, as part of the MOU, authorized to start working on a local agreement with the City of Olympia to purchase a property. This is located in the France Anderson Road, just a little bit off exit 111, I believe, of I-5. So we have gone through the process. We issue an appraisal, and here we are, is for the board to consider authorizing this in-local agreement. And the purchase price that we have agreed is $1,685,000. And the proposal includes a 50-50, 50% coming from the county and 50% coming from the City of Olympia. Also, in this agreement includes expenditures that they will be spent to bring this site to a certain level of state where we can bring the remainder RVs from Ensign Road to this particular location. The ultimate, when we discussed this with the board, this particular RV strategy is on a temporary basis, but in the long term, this particular property will serve as an asset for affordable housing. They will be part of the Regional Housing Council conversation as we move forward into the future. So, and again, this is a follow-up to the MOU that you authorized me signing with the City of Olympia, and here we are. The funding source that this money is going to come from is from the American Rescue Plan, ARPA funds, and we have set aside $1.5 million out of that fund. As you may recall, you set aside close to $9 million for affordable housing, and this will come as part of that allocation. Tom? Robin?
I don't have anything to add. Happy to try to answer any questions if I can.
Commissioner Edwards, you're up.
Yes, sir. Do we have participation on this from the other jurisdictions as well?
That's a good question, Commissioner. At this point, what the county is participating with the City of Olympia is purchasing the property and do the cost of the development of the property to accommodate the RVs. The operations and maintenance, it will have to be discussed at the Regional Housing Council with all the jurisdictions need to be part of that conversation. And that is clearly stated in the local agreement.
And then in the end, who's going to be the property owner on this?
The City of Olympia.
Okay, thank you.
I think my questions have been answered by what was just covered. So I've got the agreement and I'll have a chance to look that through before next Tuesday.
Oh yeah, thank you. I did attach the agreement in your packet if you have the opportunity to review it. Yeah. And I have to say thank you to Robin, really, because this particular agreement was up for review by the Olympia City Council, I believe, this week. And when they realized that perhaps we needed to do a little extra language on the agreement to address the permanent treasurer requirements related to the use of ARPA funds. And I have to give kudos to Robin. She made this a priority, and here we are. So thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Romero. I'm just making sure we're doing it right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. So let's, more to come on that. Let's look at 8B, Memorandum of Understanding for Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Funds.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Just to give you a perspective for the public's, we received from the Department of Housing and Urban Development at the federal level allocations for the community development block grant that will call all the CDBG funding. Years ago, the county, including the cities of Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, except for the City of Olympia, qualified as an urban county where we receive an annual allocation to in the order of just about $1.1 million. The process that we have exercised in the past and continues to be is with the allocation goes on a rotation basis. 1 year goes to the city of Lacey, 1 year goes to the city of Tumwater, last year I believe the city of Tumwater. And the third year, which is this year, goes through the county in coordination with the South cities. As you may recall, there was a lot of conversations last week since the city of Lacey qualified to be as an urban city. They could have a direct allocation of the CDBG money. But the city of Lacey Council decided just to continue to be part of this regional approach, and here we are. So this MOU is needed to go ahead and start working with the South cities as to how the new projects should be implementing as a result of the CDBG money. We have the expert on the CDBG process, Jacinda Stolges is here. If you'd like to add additional perspective, and she's available to answer any questions.
County
Commissioner
Manager,
Edwards? Oh, you have something, Jacinda, up front?
I just wanted to just very briefly add that the 3-year rotation starts with the South counties and then moves on to Lacey and ends with Tumwater. So this year, 2022, the CDBG will be dispersed across the South County jurisdictions. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, what's the dollar amount?
1.1 million.
Okay, thank you.
Is this, so is this just re-upping the kind of agreement that we've had in the past, or is there some new element to this agreement that we're addressing?
Well, that's an interesting conversation. Go ahead, Jacinda.
Yeah, so this memorandum that we are entering into with the South County jurisdictions, so that's Yelm, Rainier, Tenino, Town of Bokota, and then unincorporated Thurston County will be covered as well. So this MOU is the same that we have entered into in past years with them. Our office did engage as a whole with Lacey, Tumwater, and the South County jurisdictions in the past few months in hopes that we could sign one MOU that would include some housing set-asides, and ultimately South Thurston County jurisdictions didn't feel that that was the best use of the funding in those areas. So that is why we're kind of reverting back to, for South County, this MOU that we have executed in the past. I mean, it will look the same as it has in the past.
And so South County jurisdictions didn't want to have housing set aside. Who did want that? Was it us or Lacey or Tumwater or all three?
We will move forward with Lacey and Tumwater. It's our understanding at this point anyway, we have no reason to believe that things will change with them, with an MOU that will have a housing set aside. So specifically called out in the MOU, percentage of the CDBG funds dedicated to housing specifically. That's not to say that in South County, housing applications won't be considered. That is still being in discussion. They just didn't want that specific set aside.
Okay, so there was discussion of changing it a little bit, but then for South County, at least that's not going to be the case.
Correct.
And Ramiro, is this going to be, this is my second time around now, so because South County had it my first year on the board, is it the same process that we kind of muddled through, I'll say, in 2019 in terms of kind of the mayors kind of and then we represent South Rochester area in terms of projects, or how what's the process look like for 2022?
Is based on this MOU is the same process that you recall, Commissioner. So the Board of County Commissioners have delegated that responsibility to me to represent the unincorporated areas of South County. So and the last cycle, as you may recall, there were 2 projects that were funded under the CDBG money in the Rochester area. And I believe those projects are moving forward on the implementation. That created a little bit of interesting conversations with the mayors then. So, but I believe that is the responsibility you have entrusted me to represent those areas of the county that are not incorporated. And that's part of the process. We just need to go through and see what projects they are. And also we'll see if any proposals from the unincorporators of the county are part of this process. But I don't expect any changes. Do you, Jacinda?
No.
So another element of that debate, though, in 2019 was whether or not there'd be like an actual RFP process versus, I think at one point they were just doing, kind of mayors were bringing projects forward for discussion. It was very informal. Am I hearing that there is RFP now?
Commissioner Menser, yes, there will be an RFP. And that would be, of course, open to any nonprofits or other agencies in South County that want to apply, as well as the cities and town of Dakota themselves.
Yeah,
But yes, there will be an RFP.
And in fact, we held a meeting with the mayors to discuss the RFP process this Friday, I believe. Is that right, Jacinda? Yeah.
Okay, well, that's, I think, a positive change. I think that will help the process a little bit.
Right.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, it's 10:31. We're going to take a break. We'll be back at 10:45 to pick up with item 8C on the agenda for February 22nd, and that's under item 4 of this morning's work session agenda. We'll be back at 10:45.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
We're live. Okay. 10:46 a.m. and we are back with the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session for this Tuesday, February 15th, 2022.
Oh, yeah.
We left in the middle of item 4, review of the proposed agenda for February 22nd. And we left off with item 8C under Public Health and Social Services, a contract with Confluence Consulting Northwest for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Consultant.
Thank you, Commissioner. You reviewed this item last week, and the result of that conversation was for you to, the board suggested to bring this item not for today's conversation in consideration, but for next week. So as a matter of background, in 2021, the Regional Housing Council set aside funds for a one-time award of $150,000 for a local document, from the local document recording fees. That will be the 2163, which all the jurisdictions participate on this, to be dedicated to addressing racial disparities in the homeless crisis response system. And the request for proposals was issued, and the Regional Housing Council has provided recommendations for you to authorize this particular contract for $150,000 to, I believe it's the Confluence Consultant Northwest. Keely is here to answer any questions, additional questions that perhaps you have related to design.
Commissioner Edwards, questions?
Yes, what is the outcome that we expect to get from this $150,000?
So we met with the Confluence Consulting Northwest yesterday and discussed outcomes. And one of the outcomes is, of course, to address the strategies that are identified already in the 5-year plan for that is a requirement from the state of Washington to address racial disparities within our homeless crisis response system. So they will be vetting and or providing new strategies that are more in alignment. And there will be a process in which there is an ongoing steering committee to address these issues for the homeless crisis response system. So it's setting up this steering committee comprised of community members and those in our homeless crisis response system that are Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and who also have lived experience. So those are two of the main outcomes.
You said it's already in the plan, though? That we've already got something like that in the plan?
We created strategies back in 2019, which were approved in December of 2019, that did include strategies for addressing racial disparities. However, those strategies were not vetted by our Black, Indigenous, people of color community members. And so we want to make good and make sure that what we suggested as strategies are in alignment with those who it most impacts.
And that's going to cost $150,000. I guess I'm trying to figure out the expenditure versus the benefit.
This is a year-long process where we have a consulting agency that will be engaging the homeless crisis response system on several levels and preparing reports and documents and report outs to ensure that as we move forward, we have the ground set for as moving forward in as anti-racist kind of strategies and conversations, and that the system actually can do what it's set out to do. We have no way of vetting what strategies we've already put forth without having that input from our community members who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Are we at least suspecting that we're not treating people fairly based on race? Is that kind of what this boils down to?
Absolutely. Across the United States, it is a well-known fact, and there are many, many reports to back this up, and research that Black, Indigenous, and people of color are overrepresented in the homeless population. This is true for us here in Thurston County as well, and that a lot of the prioritization tools that have been put into place when implemented skew towards favoring getting white people into housing projects over Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So this is an issue that is being looked at across the United States. And other homeless crisis response systems in Washington state are looking very, very closely at this. It is absolutely a mandate. at least in our state, to be addressing it.
Do you happen to know the breakdown of racial groups right off the top of your head that we're representing in our homeless population?
I can't do it right off the top, but I do know we have a data. We just released the most recent quarterly data report, and it is consistent that we have, for instance, American Indian and Native Alaskan populations that represent 1% of our general population, and 3 to 4% of those experiencing homelessness are American Indian and Native Alaskan. Same across the board for people who are Black and African American, a very low percentage of general population, and double or triple that represented in the homeless crisis response system. In fact, those who were swept from Deschutes, that camp had a very high population of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And those are the ones that are in the hotels currently. And so we do have a big problem here in Thurston County. And I'm happy to get that data to you. But it's been consistent from the moment I started until today, that it's a gross overrepresentation within the population of people experiencing homelessness.
Well, of the people in the decision end, I guess from the government side of things that are trying to do good work, I mean, I know their heart's in the right spot. Are they the ones that are making the inappropriate decisions when it comes to who gets help and who does not?
I think this is a systemic issue. These are processes and procedures that have been in place for generations upon generations that have continually skewed towards favoring white people getting into housing projects. This is this is not new. It's embedded in the ways in which decisions are made and processes are laid forth. So there's a lot of effort and across the United States to look at, like, what are our prioritization processes? Why is this happening? Why has it been consistently happening? Going back into like affordable housing and how those policies and procedures have been rooted in segregation and racist policies. So we're addressing a tiny fraction of an overall systemic issue.
I guess from my perspective, I see that taking place in, I don't know, the Deep South, or where there is real problems even in law enforcement. I've actually seen it. I just don't see it in our community. And if our folks within government are trying to do the best they can, I don't see any of them discriminating against people in any way, shape, or form. So I'm just trying to figure out, is it a good expenditure versus something else in that category that could be? So that's kind of why I'm questioning that.
Absolutely. And it's not an individual who's making racist choices. Again, it is it's systemic. It's been in place for a long time. And it is absolutely in our community. And I'm happy to get that data for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I think I'm good on that. I know, Commissioner, I know you watch the news, and so I know you've probably, seen Thurston County unfortunately been in the news recently for, not directly related to housing decisions, but, incidents at high schools and other types of things. So we know we're not immune here to some of the systemic problems. So appreciate Keely's laying that out for us. Let's go on to Public Works 9A. Contract award for Lake Lawrence Submerged Aquatic Vegetation Control, and it looks like 9B is the related item related to Long Lake.
Yeah, and let me frame those to you, Commissioner, if I may. It's the result of the issuing of request for proposals. There was advertised on December 16, 2021. And on January 13, 2022, we've received 3 proposals specializing in aquatic pesticide applications to perform submerged aquatic vegetation control for both Lake Lawrence for item 9A and for Long Lake in item 9B. Both proposals One has $350,000 for the applications Lawrence Lake, and the second is for $480,000 related to Long Lake. The board has had many conversations related to this item, included a briefing last week, and the expert, Paula Cracknell, is here to answer any additional questions the board may have.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, the funding, the 350 and the 480, those funds were raised within those lake management districts, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So just so the public knows that, I don't know that we need to put it in the motion because I might end up reading the motion. So I just want to make sure that the folks that live in those jurisdictions know that's what their money is being spent for. That's all. So thank you. That's all I need.
Yes, absolutely. This amount is set aside in their yearly budget, and the total amounts are for the entire 4 years. This is not a guaranteed amount to be spent up to, but it is the limit of the spending for this contract for the duration of the 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not going to go into any questions today. I've been reviewing the board briefing materials back from 2017 when this policy shifted, and I've got questions, and I'm going to follow up with staff later this week. And I'm not really there yet on this, but I'm hoping with help of staff and answering some questions, maybe I'll get there. So I'm fine to keep this on for further review next week, and we'll see where things are. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, item 9C is a proposal to set a public hearing to consider a contract for solid waste operations, maintenance, transport, and disposal services.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is a long process, and this is one of the next steps within the process of issuing a contract for the solid waste operations, maintenance, transport, and disposal services. Just a little bit of a perspective on this. And during 2018, the Board of County Commissioners deliberated extensively on the available options to related to the expiring contracts that we currently have. In October 2018, the Board of County Commissioners authorized the staff to issue a request for proposals for solid waste operations, maintenance, transport services. The request for proposals was released on January 13, 2021, with the proposals due on April 8, 2021. But before we issue the request for proposals, just to make sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's, we had a review period of the request for proposals that extended from September 8th through November 18, 2020. For any of the potential responders to the RFP have the opportunity to review the proposals that are going to be issued, as well as including, I believe, a tour of the facility so they can understand what is the county needs. The result of that process was back in June 2019, where staff brought to the Board of County Commissioners the highest scoring proposer. And on June 29, 2021, the Board of County Commissioners passed a resolution directing the staff to begin negotiations with the contract with this high scoring proposer. Those negotiations occurred between July through November 2021. And as a result of that process, the board reviewed the terms of that proposed draft contract during a couple of executive sessions. And on February 3rd, 2022, after the last executive session at a public setting, The Board of County Commissioners authorized the Department of Public Works to bring an AIS for you to consider setting a public hearing for the public to give the public the opportunity to review this proposed contract. And this is the item before you, to consider setting a public hearing for March 22nd, 2022 at 3 p.m, where you will be receiving public testimony related to this contract specifically. As soon as the board considered taking an action and setting a public hearing, we'll make sure the proposed draft contract is available to the public to review, and that will be the basis on which you will be receiving testimony on March 22nd if the board approves that. That's a little bit of a overall background. I know that you are well aware of the process. I just want to make sure the public understand what this item was all about. And Jeff, did I miss anything? You'd like to add anything on this item?
Actually, I think you gave an excellent overview of the process as it's happened so far. So willing to answer any other questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, I think that covers it all. The public will have basically 30 days to get a hold of the draft contract, I guess, and review it. So come March 22nd, if they have concerns or issues, they can bring it up at that point, then, right? They'll have adequate time to review the whole thing, I guess. Sounds like a month, so, okay.
All right, very good. I don't have any questions. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Item 10 will be our standing items where the commissioners will make reports and county manager will review combined schedule. We'll adjourn, but reconvening probably, given the link to the agenda, it'll probably be after 3 p.m. where we will convene for 2 public hearings on related items. Craig Sisson is here from Public Works. These are, first one is public hearing for application of Eld Inlet Community Water Association for a non-exclusive franchise for a water system within Thurston County rights of way. And then B is a similar item for application of Scott Lake Maintenance Company for a similar type franchise. County manager or Craig, who's gonna just remind us what we're doing here?
Yeah, you outlined it very well, Commissioner. Just for your consideration, the process is for you to hold public hearings on the applications that we have received from Eld Inlet Company Water Association, as well as from the Scott Lake Maintenance Company for a non-inclusive franchise for water systems. It mainly is for them to be able to utilize the county's right of way. That's really the intent of this, is for the public to provide testimony to the board whether you'd like to accept this application for a franchise utility. They will be able to operate their facilities within the county's right of way. Craig?
That is a good explanation, County Manager. I'm here for any questions. I do want to note that we have, at this point, received no comments on either of these franchises.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, anything for Craig?
No, sir.
Okay, me neither. So hopefully that'll be straightforward, and that will be next Tuesday at 3 p.m. or soon thereafter, the board meeting, as we can get started.
Thank you.
That closes up item 4 on today's agenda. Let's go to item 5, proclamations and awards. Clerk of the board, Amy Davis.
Good morning, Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. There are no proclamations for review.
Let's go to item 6, advisory boards and commissions.
Yeah, last week it was requested, we include all applications received and the list of vacancies to just keep a running list on this cover page. So the 2 applications that are impending from Glenn Shornow and Chris Ullman are included for the Agriculture Advisory Committee. The list of vacancies is included, but I continue to work with staff and expect to hear back from a few more throughout this week. So all should be reflected next week, along with the resignation that was distributed this morning. That is all I have.
That's a new resignation from the Ag Committee, is that correct?
Yes.
You received, I didn't get a chance to review that letter. You received the resignation from Ms. Haney from the Agricultural Advisory Committee.
So the one seat that's identified there would actually be 2 seats,
Yes,
and we have 2 applicants.
correct. Yes.
Okay, so that could solve a problem, maybe, potentially. Okay, Commissioner Edwards, any questions on this this situation with advisory boards?
No, I think I'm okay, thank you.
All righty, let's go to PIO check-in. And thank you, Amy, for this list. I think this will be very helpful for us in the future.
Yeah, if I may, commissioners, I will encourage for next week to read a resignation letter from Ms. Haney. It's a little lengthy, but I think it provides good perspective on the reasons to why he is resigning from the advisory.
Okay, I will do that. I haven't had a chance yet. I got it last night. PIO is available.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I'm excited to announce that the website redesign kickoff is this Thursday. This is around a 12-month process, so by this time next year, we should be looking at launching our new site. I'm holding interviews this week for the public information specialist dedicated to this position, and I hope to get them on board no later than mid-March. I'm continuing work with design on the Atrium for our office needs, as well as working with IT and our consultant, the Desco group, to move the audiovisual equipment from this room into the new space. So I'm doing a lot of work on that. And then there is still the survey available on our website. So if anyone comes and visits the website and the survey pops up, I recommend you take it to give us information on what you like about our current site, what you don't like, and what you expect to see in the new website. So pending any questions, that's what I have.
Commissioner Edwards, anything for Megan?
No, sir.
Nope. Okay, thanks, Megan. Exciting news. Appreciate that. Legislative update is item 8.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. You have an updated report on your packet, and I am not going to go through each of the items, but I'd like to highlight some. They might be of interest to you, and just highlighting where they are. Beginning page number 1, engross substitute House Bill 1329, and this related to public meetings, mainly related to addressing virtual meetings for the legislative authorities after an emergency is completed, is done, is that it moves into a public hearing in the Senate on February 18 at 10:30. In the same page, the substitute House Bill 1620, it is related to response of the extreme weather conditions. That's where it requires the military department of the state to implement a grant program to help local governments related to response to extreme weather conditions and responses. And again, that moves to the Senate of public hearing tomorrow at 8 a.m. The other couple of bills that I'd like to highlight for your attention is on page 4, and that is the second substitute House Bill 1723 on top of the page. And this is related to broadband and closing the digital equity divide by increasing accessibility and affordability to telecommunication services. This actually passed the House and is currently at the third reading at the Senate. The other item that I'd like to highlight is our bill, actually. It is 1629. Gosh, I forgot my own bill.
Used to be 1965. That's
1965. Thank you.
I don't know if it changed numbers for went to the Senate or something.
That particular moved out of committee is on page number 4. Thank you, Commissioner. And was moved to rules. It has not moved out of rules, and that will be the next step, hopefully. I'm not very hopeful that it will do so, the Association of Veterans Association has submitted an email to some of the members. They serve on the Rules Committee to move this bill out of rules so they can exercise the vote at the House floor. Whether that is successful, we will see in the next couple of days. I'm still very hopeful that perhaps this move out rules, and hopefully they can go through a vote on the floor. That's where we are on the 1965. Right, Robin?
Robin's got something.
Isn't today the cutoff to consider bills in the House of Origin? I think today's the cutoff.
Is it today? Okay, thank you. So I guess we'll see today.
15th? Yeah, February 15th.
I believe that, and maybe that's what you were saying, but the veterans group testified on this yesterday in favor of it.
Yeah, and also submit an email also.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
So we can hope that it gets pulled out of rules today.
Yeah, so let's remain hopeful. The other item that I'd like to highlight for your consideration is also on page 4, that is House Bill 1978. This is concerning the Shoreline Master Program review schedule, which moves the review from 8 to 10 years. It's currently in the Senate. It has a public hearing on tomorrow, 8 a.m. Next item is on page 5. Is Senate Bill 5514. Is currently in the House executive session. I believe it has passed the Senate, and this allows the legislative authorities to hold, particularly Board of County Commissioners, to hold at least once a month outside of the county seat meetings, regular meetings. Right now, you're limited to have those on a quarterly basis. That provides flexibility.
Aren't we, Ramiro, aren't we on year 16 or 17 of our Shoreline Master Program review?
Yeah.
8 to 10 is not going to help us. We're
right.
Apparently Thurston County needs 20 years to get her done.
Thank you for that question. Yeah.
Just a commentary.
Yeah, I don't have a response to that, but on point. And the last item that I'd like to highlight to you is on the last page. And this is a gross second substitute, Senate Bill 5796. And this is restructuring the cannabis revenue appropriations. And that seems to be a very interesting bill. That it does allow for additional distribution to local governments. In addition to what is currently occurring, this particular bill includes an additional distribution if that includes that if the amount listed, because there's a lot of distribution of the cannabis revenues, they would have, just to give you an example, in 2021, the annual report on on all the fees and taxes, the cannabis income at the state level was $473.9 million. That was in 2020. In 2021, that went up to $559.5 million. And there is the legislature distribute those funds to many other, areas at the state level. I can give you the list if you like. But within that context, the current law states that if marijuana excise tax collections from the previous year exceeds $25 million, then the legislature would distribute at least 30% to local governments. And that's probably what we've seen in the past. So this particular legislation relates to any excess of this revenues is related to the CPI, that perhaps 1.5% will be allocated to local governments where retailers are physically located, and an additional 3.5% to local governments or per capita basis in the jurisdictions. They're not prohibiting marijuana siting in their counties. So it appears to be additional revenue associated with that. You have supported this, and I wanted to highlight that it's moving in the process. I believe it passed the House, and it's moving forward into the Senate. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Edwards, anything you wanted to touch on?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Then let's look at items 9, briefing / public hearing decisions pending.
Nothing is pending. I will bring two follow-up briefings public for your action next week, just to make sure the Commissioner Mejia is part of that process as well. So nothing for you today.
Okay. Okay, then Commissioner item 10, public testimony. Anything we're dealing with there?
I mentioned earlier that I will be responding to Ms. Yoakum related to her testimony this afternoon in 3 elements, so I will be prepared to answer that question. I already sent to the board an email. The fire marshal sent that to Ms. Yoakum, so that is in your inbox as you requested earlier.
Okay. And we'll have finished up here with Commissioner items. Commissioner Edwards.
I have a couple of things. We got a correspondence from Mr. Pettit, referenced 3 questions to ask if we were to ask for an Attorney General opinion. And I think I brought this up last week, in which the opinion that we are going on the Atrium and spending REIT funds is from 1972. I believe he's contending that in 1992, there was a change in the law that no longer allowed utilization of new money to be expended out of the REIT fund. And I'm wondering, and I don't know how in-depth we want to get into this at this point in time without the full board, but I don't see any reason that it would hurt us to get a more recent opinion and maybe put that issue to bed if it's as staff has portrayed it, that it's okay. So that's one issue. And the other is, if we can't get that settled to where there's some doubt, I'm concerned on the voucher issues as far as moving forward with consent items when there's expenditure from REIT going towards this project. But more to come on that. So that's kind of my issues, if you will, for right now, sir.
Okay, I don't have, I know we went through the analysis of the REIT back a year ago-ish. I don't have any issue with if there's a way to ask for Attorney General to give us guidance. I don't see a downside to that. I don't know if Elizabeth can tell us the process for that. When you're dealing with older opinions, things can change, I guess. We can and should operate on the best interpretation of the authority that exists, but I guess that's something we can ask Elizabeth at our next opportunity of kind of how that works and whether the Attorney General's office entertains those types, under what circumstances they entertain those types of requests from counties. So I'm willing to have that discussion with council. On my list was, I don't know if sometimes Ramiro and Robin, you guys are there, but yesterday's virtual assembly for the WASAC talked about the 1152 updates, and I thought it was nothing cataclysmic in terms of a change, but just slight clarifications of things that we've been wondering about and working on. Thought I would just share that for the board's understanding. The first part of the meeting was about the draft rules that are coming from the state. Their deadline for final is July 25th, but they're going to be releasing a proposed rule in March. And they're going to have a public hearing on that in April. And they were very clear that it's highly unlikely that anything changes. I mean, the things that would change after March would be, you know, just tightening up, you know, just wordsmithing almost. So they can't promise anything, obviously, but they were pretty much saying, you know, it's reasonable for us to see that proposed rule in March and kind of rely on it in terms of our methodology of what we move forward to do. Some of the things that are required in these rules so far are, you know, the way we go about assembling our Board of Health members, community members, diversity of expertise, lived experience. There's going to be some guidance, I guess, about about OPMA and the interview process that we need to go through. So that could be really helpful to us, because I was bringing that up last week, you know, about how we were going to do that. The tribal issue that came up has not been completely resolved. It really has now sort of become an impasse in a way. The AIHC, which is American Indian Health Committee or commission, something like that, is taking the position that it's one representative per tribe. They're taking that position. The bill sponsor does not support that position. WASAC doesn't support that position, and we don't, you know, looking at consistency with other provisions, it really doesn't seem like that was, you know, what was intended. But until the state can kind of get that worked through with the AIHC, there's still that out there. But for now, we're assuming that it's going to be one tribal representative appointed by the AIHC. Then they're going to, so that's like, that's a kind of about the rules. Then they're going to release guidance, which is kind of another world. And they've got 3 areas they're going to release guidance on. They're going to have new member orientations, which I think will be great. So when we bring new people on, and there'll be a lot at the first instance, they're going to do comprehensive, like, you know, public health 101, and, you know, what health boards do, and all that's going to be really good. Subject matter trainings and administration, guidance with administration, like how you recruit, how you do your appointments. And that will come late summer. So we won't have that for that first round, but we will get that over, you know, by the end of the summer. There is this process of the board of, so it's going to seem a little funky. We've done it in other contexts, but until we get that first Board of Health seated, it's going to be kind of this weird thing where the Board of Health nominates to the Board of County Commissioners. Of course, it's the same 3 people in our case right now. There has to be a Board of Health resolution, which then translates to a Board of County Commissioners ordinance. And the Board of Health does, the way the process is set up is the Board of Health nominates candidates to the Board of County Commissioners for appointment. At that point, you know, it'll be a bigger Board of Health that will nominate to our smaller county commission, or maybe 5-person commission, however that is. And then the last thing I wanted to share was, there was an ad question. What will happen to us if we miss this deadline? You know, do we get fined? So the rub there is probably there's no real penalty. It's just that the board of, we really can't make any decisions about fees, about policies, because they could be challenged as invalid and inconsistent with the law. So if we're not able to make that July deadline, we just have to understand that the Board of Health cannot take a affirmative policy type of action until we are in compliance. So that's kind of the stick over us. And I know sometimes the Board of Health has fees for, you know, septics or pools or food inspections or all these kind of things that we manage. It might be something that we need to look at the timelines on all of that if we're not going to make it, but hopefully we will. So anyway, thought I'd share all that. And then the only other thing I had on my commissioner item list, Ramiro, can you remind me, I know I've asked you 3 times, I apologize, but can you remind me of what we're going to do in response to the Chehalis letter on the roads? Is the board going to have a briefing on the history, or what are we doing as a response to their request about the road?
I have an item for a discussion with the board next Tuesday.
Okay.
That's my agenda.
I knew you were on it. I just wanted to make
And-
sure
and-
that.
And I have
we're
finally
talking.
got to the point of getting all the history in place, so I'm ready to provide that perspective to the board.
Perfect. Commissioner Edwards, anything else?
No, I think that's gonna cover it for today. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
The
We'll be
gift
back
of
at 2
time.
p.m.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes extra.
33.
Yeah. All right. Great.
Thank you.